learned a lot over the last decade, but even in the last year, I feel like I could massively refine how I fast to get more out of it. I want all my fans of fasting to drop a quick comment down below for the algorithm. It helps these videos tremendously. YouTube is...
Actually, everything he's saying here, you can also do on my video, because this is about getting the word out. We need to, everything I've learned has been from YouTube, because I certainly didn't hear it from doctors. It is great to comment, like, subscribe to everybody who's making content about things that can help people's metabolic health.
Playing the game where they want comments and engagement. So drop a comment on all the videos that you watch from me. Just drop a comment, say hello, engage. I do read a lot of those, so drop a comment. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for daily videos. Now, the first thing that...
So the reason why I'm making this video is because he's talking about fasting, and he's talking about mistakes that he made when he was fasting. And I really like this guy's content, and I think that, he's done a lot for the keto diet and for helping people understand what goes on with fat adaptation and mitophagy and all of those different things. But the disappointment I have here is that it's the same with all of these guys. They're not talking about women. And so I was following advice like this about like the 16-8, like I always made sure I fasted for at least 16 hours. And then I found out from Dr. Sims that actually, women, especially women my age of 44, so I'm perimenopausal, and women in their 40s and 50s, actually prolonged fasting can really mess up your hormones. And I know that my severe anxiety, like, because I've got OCD and I'm housebound agoraphobic and things like that, I always get way worse at certain times of the month, because I know that my anxiety peaks really, really badly. And I know that that's linked to my hormones because of the times of the month where it does happen. It can't be coincidental. So all of these guys are giving great tips about fasting and things, and there's even some women as well. But then you find out, like, as Dr. Sims says, like, women aren't small men. Like, we have completely different systems. And this is just another video where somebody's talking about fasting, but they're not really talking about fasting for everyone. Like, this is, I don't know who these are for, but probably for men, because it's usually not garnered towards what's best for an actual woman's hormonal system and a woman's body. But here he's got not enough eggs. Let's see what he says.
That I've been making a mistake with is I haven't been eating enough eggs on my fasting days. I know that sounds kind of cheeky and kind of funny. The reality is, when you're trying to get as much nutrient density as you possibly can in a short period of time, eggs are really going to be quite the answer. Now, here's the...
Okay, I love eggs. Eggs are great. I think that what I've noticed since I found out, because I didn't discover Dr. Sims for ages. I mean, I only recently discovered her I used to do my morning jog. I'd have a cup of coffee, usually like decaf, really, and I'd have a cup of coffee and I'd do my morning jog. And then, she pointed out that that's really bad for women, especially women in their 40s and 50s, because it actually tells, I'm not sure the science, I'll make another video from her where she explains this, but basically saying, like, it tells the body that the stress is coming. So you actually release more cortisol. So you're actually stressing yourself out more. So just have something with a bit of protein and a little bit of carb in it in the morning before you work out, and it stops that message being sent to, I don't know if it's the thyroid, I can't remember. So I've now started eating in the morning with my coffee. I'll have like a boiled egg, or a bit of boiled egg and a bit of avocado or something really light. And also, he's talking about here about putting as much calories in a short space of time as you're doing it. I've actually found that I'm not doing the 16 hours anymore. I'm happy at 12, because I think that there's nothing wrong for me to eat more during the day, more times, because when I was on carnivore, I'd eat like twice a day. And I felt really good for some parts of the day, and then other times like I just felt completely uneasy, wobbly, things like that. So I thought that, maybe it wasn't that that I needed a bit of carbs, but I think as well it's just you don't have much hunger when you're fat adapted. When you're on carnivore, you don't have much hunger, so you just don't feel like eating. And I think it's really important to force yourself to eat, but as long as it's meat, it's not going to spike your blood sugar anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you eat meat. It matters if you eat carbs. So, okay.
Problem that I would face is a lot of times I would fast through the morning. So by the time after.
What's the next one? The next one is only fasting in the morning.
It was my norm to skip breakfast. Like skipping breakfast became my normal intermittent fasting thing. And when
Okay, so that seems to be the common thing that everybody finds easier. I was never like that. Breakfast is my favorite meal of the day. I love breakfast. But I'd get up at, say, 6, and I'd get my morning run in before, and then I'd have breakfast at 8, and I'd usually like eat between, say, 8 and 4, because I'm very used to not eating after kind of 4 or 5 o'clock. But then, like I said, just realized that I was actually just releasing more cortisol into my system, and I was stressing out my body. So now at 6, I'll have the hard, the boiled egg or something, and I'll eat more. And then at 4 o'clock, like I really have no problem finishing at 4 o'clock. And I definitely think it's, I think it helps me during the day to be a bit more stable. I have less fluctuations unless I'm, it's like that time of the month. But I only discovered Dr. Sims like about 2 weeks ago. So I've been doing this for a very short space of time. So I was coming up to my period before it. So I don't know if it's going to have an effect. I need to do it a bit longer to know if it's going to have an effect. But definitely during the day, just eating, like having a few burgers or some sort of meat during the day, like eating 3 or 4 times a day now as opposed to 2, but like it being mostly meat for it. Yeah, I feel good. I feel more steady during the day. So I'm happy enough with that. What's his next problem?
It became a norm that leads me to chronically lowering calories.
Yeah, this happens when you get into fat adaptation on carnivore without you even knowing. You just lose your appetite completely. And I go like, easily. I could easily go 6-7 hours without eating anything. But then I'd start getting jittery. I wouldn't even really necessarily be starving or hungry or anything. You can get hungry, but you never get starving when you're like that. And everybody talks about that on the carnivore diet as if that's a good thing. And I suppose it is a good thing for some people. But again, I don't think this applies to women who obviously have some sort of issues with their hormones that's linked to their mental health problems. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know that. I'm purely testing all of this stuff on myself. I think that a lot of this is based on what's good for men, because Dr. Sims will say that men exercising in the morning after a fast, it like really, really works well for building their muscle tone, but it's completely different effect on women's hormones. It's not about building muscle or losing weight or anything. It's what it does to the hormones. And this is what I'm trying to figure out with me, because I have very different experiences of life the week before I get my period, and even a bit around ovulation, but definitely the week before I get my period, I go into almost non-functioning, and it's definitely hormonal. So again, chronically lowering calories, yeah, everybody falls into that trap, but a lot of the time this is plugged as a great thing because you're losing so much weight. Yeah, that's fine if you can handle it. That's fine if you are metabolically able to handle it, or I don't know, but definitely for me as a woman in her 40s who obviously has like hormonal problems, that's just not going to work. And if as long as you eat mostly meat, you're not going to put on weight anyway. You know, this is different if you're loading up on carbs, then yeah, that'll be a problem. So I don't think I need to worry about this either.
This is a mistake that I was focusing on doing cardio on my fasting days. Now, not to be mistaken with fasted cardio. I still roll out of bed and do cardio in a fasted state, but on my
There you go. Because that's good for you. That's good for men. These rules don't apply to women. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I've been watching for about 18 months when I started realizing what metabolic therapy was, and I started watching these videos and learning that, okay, maybe my mental health problems aren't a chemical imbalance in my brain, but it's actually metabolic dysfunction, and I have like inflammation of the brain or something, and my mitochondria aren't working properly. Um, I was trying to get all this information about it, and these are the kind of things like that you're told, like fast on and something like it's really good for you. Yeah, if you're a man, it is. Anyway,
fasting day, more
next
fat
one is
oxidation. Which leads me to number 5. I wasn't focusing on parasympathetic activity. I was only focusing on the fight or flight, adrenaline, sympathetic tone that allows you to burn fat. What I didn't realize is that you can get more out of your fasting if you are properly recovered. I liked to push it all
okay. So this is not really applicable, I think, to mental illness stuff.
down so that when you do fast, it's actually doing something that's a shock to the system. The 6th one is I didn't focus on micronutrition. Now, I talked about the eggs, but when I used to fast a lot, I cannot believe how many days I must have gone without actually getting micronutrition in,
Yeah, okay.
but focus on getting nutrient-dense foods. Even the shakes that are active protein, I talk about that one a lot.
Okay, don't care about that.
Very big one. Very, 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 very.
Okay, I don't know what he's going to say here because I haven't watched this part, but like, yeah, good health. Okay. I did the 30 plants a week thing before I went carnivore. Destroyed my, I mean, literally, like, talk about being like a slave to the bathroom, like, destroyed my thing. I had then when I did go carnivore, I oxalated dumped like a mad person because I have been eating so many seeds and nuts and spinach and kale and vegetables and all these kind of things. Um, so I'm not saying that. Yeah, and there was very, very conflicting thing because the carnivore people will say, you have no problems on carnivore with your microbiome. Your gut is perfectly fine just eating meat. Even if you just eat beef for the rest of your life, you'll be fine. And then obviously there's a whole other thing, like even Dr. Sims is like, gut health is really, really important. But she does talk a lot about like when you're like training. A lot of her stuff is about training. But it's, yeah, so I don't really know. I have obviously added back some stuff. Like I do eat like a bit of salad stuff. I don't eat high oxalate foods really, but like I added a bit of salad stuff back, and I do eat like small bits of fruit here and there at the moment. But like obviously I'm doing ketogenic therapy, so I make sure that I'm not eating enough carbs to get me out of ketosis. Um, but yeah, good health. Let's see what he says.
Big mistake that I made that I only corrected recently was focusing on gut mucosal layer and gut barrier integrity. I focused a lot on the microbiome. I've always been a fan of that. But the more that I've learned, the more that I've realized that we don't know diddly squat about the microbiome other than just having a diverse microbiome is pretty good. Like we are just scratching the surface of things. What we do know more about is our gut barrier. And what we do know is that when you fast, you actually temporarily degrade the gut mucosal layer. This is normal. You have a weak.
Interesting. That's the first time I've heard that. I would be very much afraid of damaging that layer because they say that a lot of the mental health problems come from things leaking out of the gut, the leaky gut effect, and then that gets into your bloodstream, and then that fucks up your mental health. So Interesting. What's he saying?
Eating of it. And then it rebuilds shortly after you eat food and then rest again. So the first meal that you eat, and I've talked about this before, is very important because your gut mucosal layer might be a little weakened. So you have a chance of increasing inflammation because more particles can slip through that weakened protein junctions in the gut. So what you want to focus on is really paying attention to getting things like collagen, getting things like bone broth, getting in things like glutamine for the gut. I know some people don't like glutamine.
Yeah, okay, listen, like I'm sticking with my sausage, my bacon, my eggs, my avocado breakfast because there's no freaking way I'm doing bone broth. I don't know how people drink that crap for breakfast. I add bone broth to, you know, meat for my dinner, but there's no way I'm drinking that crap in the morning. But coming back to the gut health, yeah, having a strong barrier would be something that I think is important because definitely leaky gut and things like that they are really associated with mental health problems. So um, okay, you can go back and watch this guy's video if you're interested in what he has to say about that.
You
That's
don't
the
have to
next
take it,
one.
but body. The next one is I wasn't being as clean with some of my fasts as I could be. What would happen is if I was doing more fasting, but a little more frequently, what would happen is I would just get kind of lazy with it. I'd have coffee, which is fine. I'd have tea. I might even pop some supplements and things like that. And that's fine. It doesn't break a fast. But what I've realized now, and this might ruffle some feathers, but I think some people will really resonate with. As a matter of fact, in the comment section, let me know if this resonates with you. Even if it doesn't resonate with you, let me know. Drop a comment down below because it really helps a ton for the algorithm.
He really, really wants comments. Okay.
And helps the video get up there, and also hit that subscribe button. So what's interesting is that from a purity standpoint, there's a lot that fasting does. And I mean purity in the sense that you're not just abstaining from food, you're abstaining from all kinds of things, right?
Okay, so yeah, that's not anything to do with it. So let's
I don't
next
really need to
one.
drink water if I'm not heavily exerting myself. There's a purity aspect there too, and all kinds of things. The next thing is I realized the difference between intermittent fasting and intermittent caloric restriction. This
Yeah, that's he's pretty much already
trick
dehydration.
that I learned. See, I was always trying to find ways to stay hydrated during my
Yeah, I just had to like when I first went on to carnivore, I figured all these guys were trying to sell supplements, like because everybody was sponsored by the electrolyte people. Every one of the carnivores is sponsored by the electrolyte people. So I thought, okay, that's a scam. And then about 2 weeks in, when I felt like I'd literally been hit by a freaking truck and I had like restless legs, and I realized, okay, maybe they're not lying about those electrolyte things and I should get some. And it really does. So yeah, look at if you're doing anything, you should stay hydrated. You don't have to go crazy with it. I mean, but yeah, definitely. You need your magnesium, you need your potassium, you need your sodium. It is important. Let's see what the next one is.
another really big
Not
mistake.
listening to
Big
your
big big
body.
mistake.
Okay, not listening to your body. That would be a big mistake. I think that, like I said, when you go into carnivore, when you become really fat adapted and you just don't have any hunger, like I did have to force myself to to eat, and I did have to I did have to kind of get over that some nausea and just actually force myself to eat. So I was eating like ribeyes and they just weren't I didn't feel good. I was angsty. I didn't feel good, and then I discovered that chicken legs and chicken thighs just made me feel better. But again, this was kind of like eating twice a day. So I'd eat my breakfast at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I wouldn't eat again until 4 or 5 in the afternoon because I just wouldn't be hungry. And, you know, I just don't think it was good. I think if I had, I kept kind of saying, oh, maybe the reason, like, why are all these people saying that their anxiety and depression disappeared on carnivore after a week? Because the internet is full of these people who are like, oh my God, I noticed after 3 days I wasn't clinically depressed anymore. And it's like, come on. Okay, like, yeah, you get more energy, but more energy ain't gonna fix, real depression. So those kind of things, you can feel like, what's wrong with me? Why isn't it working for me? But I think as well that like you just you just need to figure out what I like. I've been doing things now for over a year, over 12 months, from carnivore to falling off the wagon and going back to eating crap to meat based and to keto and stuff. And now I'm just like, I don't care what the diet is. I just want to stay in ketosis. I want to be in ketosis for at least 3 months long again, and I want to stay in ketosis, and I want my diet to be clean. So, there are things that you have to do to prepare for that and say, I don't want to have this thing where I'm like eating the way that I want to for then 2 weeks and then I fall off and have this crazy binge, which was what I was doing. And I don't want that anymore. And if I listened to my body more, I probably would have figured this out sooner. That actually, I was almost scared to eat too much meat. And I've realized like I could eat meat all day and I don't seem to put back on any of the weight I lost on carnivore, because I did lose a significant amount of weight very quickly on carnivore. And, I haven't put it back on no matter what I've been doing since I came off carnivore, which would have been like August last year, and it's now April the following year. So, I haven't put on back on any weight. Being meat based, which is the predominantly what I've been doing is meat based. I just don't seem to put on weight when I eat meat. So, if I want to eat 4 times, 5 times a day, but I'm eating like, burgers, what you call them in America, patties or whatever, like I'm eating burgers, I'm eating, sausages, or I'm eating like steaks or something, and I don't give a crap how long I eat, because it makes me feel more stable. Um, it just makes me feel more stable throughout the day to eat regularly. So that's what my body wants. That's what my body's getting. As long as I'm in ketosis, I don't care. And I seem to be able to, as long as I'm not eating too many carbs or starches, I can stay in ketosis.
I didn't listen.
Okay,
Reality
sorry,
is that probably just needed to fast a little less so I could get
what's it
more.
saying here?
So you could see how you end up in that conundrum, right? The reality is, moment, that's fine. But if week over week over week, your energy's down, and week over week over week, your strength is down, that's telling you something. The goal here isn't to run ourselves into the ground. So if you find your strength getting
Yeah, I think because when we tend to get into these things, we watch so many different people and so many different videos, and we think we're supposed to be like other people. But that's a very good point. Whatever we're on it for, and I think a lot of people go to something like carnivore because of desperation, because nothing else has worked, or people who have discovered about this thing called metabolic psychiatry and things like that. Yeah, the object of it isn't to suffer. Like, you're not, obviously you're going to have adjustment periods in the first couple of weeks, but like if you're 5 months in and you're still feeling jittery because, like I was sometimes, because I wasn't, eating enough or something, because again, like that's not the purpose of it. Like the purpose is to find a way that's sustainable long term that makes you feel better. And I'm not even saying that like this ketogenic therapy is going to take away all my mental health problems. I don't know. I want to be one of those people posting a video who says that it does. Of course I do. But, you know, the aim of it isn't to make myself feel like crap. Like the aim of it is to make myself feel better. And so, yeah.
lower, you need to eat more, or you need to potentially fast less. I mean, in the sick and twisted mind of myself sometimes, I would be getting weaker, so I would think that I'm not pushing it hard enough. I'm getting weaker, so I must be out of shape.
This really happens on when you're in keto or carnivore and you think like, why are all these people saying that they felt better by now and I'm not feeling better? Or maybe I need to like go onto the lion diet now. Like it's not enough that I've cut out all plants and fruits. Now suddenly I can't don't eat chicken, don't eat pork, don't eat eggs, don't eat fish. No, just eat beef. Like, yeah, okay, look, maybe that does work, but I don't think that works for most of us. Like, I don't think that that's I think we're just constantly trying to measure ourselves up to what other antidotal stuff from other people. And, you know, we all have different metabolic health ranges. So how could, if it is about healing the metabolism, how can we all have the same timeline? It just doesn't work. And I think, yeah, you kind of get into, I definitely got into that mindset of like, okay, so maybe, maybe it's the coffee. Should I not drink coffee? Maybe it's the tea. Should I not drink tea? Like, should I just drink water and salt and beef like Jordan Peterson for the rest of my life? I don't think that's necessary. I don't I don't think that that's sustainable, not for me, but like, maybe it is for some people, but I if you're trying all of these things and you're still not feeling great, like it's not working for you just because it worked for somebody else, but it's not working for you. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong in the sense that you're wrong. It just means you haven't found what works best for you yet. So, yeah, you have to be a little not be so comparative with other people and a little bit easier on yourself.
I'm getting weaker, so I must push harder because maybe I'm just inflamed and I'm just not healthy right now and I'm not doing enough. You could see how you end up in that conundrum, right? The reality is that probably just needed to fast a little less so I could get more. So focus on strength and energy as your true barometer. Your body doesn't know what a calorie is, your body knows what energy is. So focus on that. The important takeaway from all of this is that fasting can become an obsession. And if you treat it like your entire life, it will become an obsession. Treat it as if it's how you would roll through survival. Occasional eating.
Again, really, really true of carnivore. And I think for me, because I have severe OCD, that I became quite neurotic.